Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Granger, and you're watching Curtain Call, a weekly interview series with powerful women in the arts presented by FabCollab, a new arts organization based in Toronto and serving people around the world. Hi, Tamar. Um, and we are presented in part by Canadian Heritage. Super grateful to them for helping make this possible. I believe this might be around our 50 something guest. So, yeah, it's been amazing. It's been more than a year. And today we're super excited to have an incredible performing artist. She's part of the Fab Collab family. She is an incredibly talented dancer and singer. She's performed on huge stages around the world. And she also has many other talents that we're going to speak about today. I'm going to invite her in right now. Please welcome to the show Stephania Woloshyn, who will be joining us right now from her home in Toronto, I believe, up in the Junction. Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, and you look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're speaking to us from your new place in West Toronto, no?
Yeah, I'm in the Junction.
Awesome.
The place, yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Oh, there's Jess. We've got all of our friends and family watching us chat online today. How wonderful. So yeah, I've known you for a long time, but I don't feel like we've ever really like sat down and like I've never had sat down with you and had you tell me your life story. So
No, because we've always been busy. We've always been so busy. Like we're both performing or we're getting ready, and one's on stage, the other one's getting ready, and then vice versa. Yeah.
totally. So let's get into it. I mean, I know, of course, about your performance career, but I don't know so much about how you got into it. And I know that you trained as a dancer and as a Ukrainian folk dancer since childhood. But was it always part of your vision to be a professional performer, like when you were doing this as a kid?
No, I mean, I started dancing when I was around 3 or 4, and it started with Ukrainian dancing in the community and ballet at a community center. And I just really liked it. And I kept going. At one point, I actually hated ballet and quit in a huge huff. But then I went back the next year. But I only ever did it because I really loved it. It was fun. It was just what I did. Um, and I
Mhm.
loved performing. I loved the choreographies. I liked the exercise. I liked the music. I like dancing with other people. So it was just like one of my favorite things to do. I never really thought about it as anything more because I thought, well, I could maybe move to Alberta and join Shumka, or I could move to Ukraine and join Virsky or something like that. But then that's a huge, I just was never pulled to do that.
Yeah, that's like it would be a very large sacrifice. So was it something that you were sort of just continuing to do as an adult as like a hobby?
Yeah. Yeah, I was dancing. I was in a Ukrainian dance group until I was about 30. Till I got too busy and I couldn't do it anymore.
And then, so can you just tell me a little bit about, because I know you also trained in the Ukraine. Was that something that you did like once you had started performing and were like, or was that something that you did when you were still sort of pursuing it just as like something that you loved? Hi, Vanessa.
Yeah, that was still just something that I did just because I wanted to, just for fun. It was an option. So
Mhm.
there was a an opportunity to go and study at the Virsky National Academy of Dance, which is in Kyiv in Ukraine. And that is like the professional dance group, or one of the most acclaimed in the country. And
Wow.
so my dance teachers at the time here used to dance with them in Ukraine. And so they set up this summer dance camp that was 2 weeks long. It was an intensive, it was 6 hours a day of dancing, Monday to Friday. Um, And I did it twice. Three times actually, sorry. I did it twice, and then a third time kind of spontaneously while I was traveling, I decided to, it was happening, and I went and joined it again.
And like, what is it like? I mean, yeah, because I also have this experience of training like in the country. You know, you pick up something in Canada and you love it, and then you go to the place where it's from and study it and see it with like being performed or whatever, be just in being forming a part of the everyday life, the fabric of life there. So what was it like doing it there? Like, were there significant differences to studying or to how people were just sort of like living this art form there?
Well, so it's very much a it, it's I wouldn't call it everyday lifestyle. It's a
Okay.
very kind of constructed type of dance that is based in traditional village dance loosely, but very much influenced by the by all of the cultural regions of Ukraine, but very balletic. It became one of those, like I don't want to say like Soviet kind of amazing, big, huge productions of dance.
Right. So
Um,
it's not like
so
this casual thing people are doing on the
no,
streets. It's like they're
no, no.
trained in this incredible uh,
Yeah, it's a very
performative.
specific type of,
Right.
yeah, it's a very specific type of dance meant to show the rest of the world this is, look how beautiful we can
Right.
dance, look at our culture, look at our arts. And it's really great. I mean, I like both, all kinds of Ukrainian dance, both the village stuff and the stage dancing. The stage dancing is really highly technical, and um, like you really it requires a lot of training to really kind of get it, do it well,
Mhm.
because it requires a lot of grace, it requires a lot of strength, it requires really good sense of rhythm, and being able to dance in a group, so to sync with other people, whether it's just a partner or whether you're dancing as a group of 30, to be in sync. And training in Ukraine was like next level, because they don't fool around. There's no, oh, it's okay, you're doing really nicely. It's like if you're not doing it right, you hear about it. They don't mince words. So if you're gonna go there, you have to expect that, they're gonna crack the whip. And actually that's kind of what I grew up with dance instructors, because often they were from you. I mean, not when I was little, but as I got a bit older, a lot of the instructors that taught the advanced groups in the various groups in Toronto that I was a part of were from Ukraine. So they come
Mhm.
from that setting where, it's very, very strict. There's no fooling around. You learn how to do it, you learn how to do it well, or go home.
Right. Yeah, it's like tough love.
It's tough love, but I really give that a lot of credit for, where I am now. I wouldn't be where I
Some
am
people
now if it wasn't for
respond
that.
well to it too. I think some people need it because
Yeah.
I know sometimes in people, I'm not sure if you've had this experience, is like that people that don't know about it might not take like folk dance or things as seriously, like, or not understand that it is this like athletic pursuit and that it's like technically complicated. And sort of like I've always enjoyed like having those teachers that sort of project the idea that this is like a serious pursuit that you need to take seriously. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I've always
and
liked it.
even if it's a hobby, it's
Mhm.
great. It's great to work towards something, towards mastering it. You don't have to master it, and you don't have to go anywhere with it. You just do it because it's a really fun challenge.
Totally. So you'd studied in Ukraine and a bunch of times and you'd always had a part of your life here. When did it start to become something that was something that you were performing more or that you saw more as a part of your career potentially?
Well, it wasn't until after I started belly dancing, I decided to try. I needed something different. I felt like I had trained that side of myself for such a long time, and I needed something that was a bit more internal. And I looked around at different, types of dance, and I kind of settled on belly dance because I've always really loved the music. And I found a studio in Toronto called Laila, and Rula Saeed runs it. And what really spoke to me about it was she has this whole program based on 7 waves, and also, working from within, like from within your spirit to bring it out, which is exactly what I was looking for at the time. So I started belly dancing with her group. And one day a drummer joined. His name's Jash Singh.
We know
He is,
him.
yeah. So he plays with me in Lemon Bucket Orchestra, and also has played with you guys in various formats. And so he was drumming with us. And one day we had one of our, bi-yearly recitals, and I was asked to do a solo that year. Like some dancers will do a solo dance. So I decided I wanted to do a hybrid performance where I created a choreography that was like half Russian gypsy, half belly dance. And Josh saw this, and he had just joined Lemon Bucket and said, "Hey, do you know this band?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, would you ever dance in a band?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Sure. Want to meet them? Sure." And so I met them, and I ended up like making a plan to, well, why don't you come dance at one show? Just come to the rehearsals before, come dance at a show, and we'll see how it goes. It went really well. And
Do you remember what the first show was, or where it was?
the first show.
Yeah, just curious.
It was at Waterfall. It used to be in Kensington Market. It was an Indian restaurant called Waterfalls. I think
Okay.
it's a beer hall now.
Oh,
It's next to
yes.
Common
On
Arts.
Augusta?
It was, yeah, on Augusta. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was there on this tiny little stage. I think there were only 6 of us at the time. This was before we blew up to a larger group. And it was fun. I danced on the floor. Everybody else was on the stage. It was great. It fit.
Yeah.
And so I just stayed on, and by February we were 13, and in May we were in Romania on
Was
our first tour.
this in 2011 or 2010 or something?
Yeah, 2011 I think is when I did that first show. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm really bad with years. It might have been
And it doesn't matter.
2000.
It was
I
a
don't
while.
know. I'm not
It's
one of those people
kind
that
of
can go
remember.
back and think.
I
Yeah,
kind of
I don't know.
remember that time, well, because like of there was a collective of bands. I mean, it might have been a little bit later, like your Lemon Bucket might have been a little bit more formed at this time, but it was still like really early when there was all of these bands in this collective called Fedora Upside Down. I feel like there's different people who are saying, Nastasia is saying hi, and other people who I might not know their handles, but who might have been in that collective at that time. Um, where I don't know how that time was, what it was like for you, but for me, it was a really magical time in the music community in Toronto because there were all of these bands that were sort of just like getting their footing in like being groups. And there was like a really big flamenco collective that was like a big 12, 13 person band. And then all of these other sort of new, young, really interesting music groups that all kind of came. I think a lot of the idea was like had performed on the street a bit, or were just very like open to different performance venues and just like playing anywhere and collaborating. And it was really cool. And Lemon Bucket, I think, was kind of like leading that a little bit and like organizing a lot of the events. And I remember seeing that you and the band for the first time. It was I can't remember where it was. It might have been the Ukrainian Cultural Center or something. It was like an upstairs venue, and just being like, wow, like this group, the energy in the group was so amazing. Yeah. And so like, so how, well, excuse me, tell me a little bit about how it just, it went from being, you performed at this little venue in Kensington Market to being on a plane. I don't know if that was the trip where you were all on the plane on the tarmac that was on like it just seemed it went on CNN and it all seemed to blow up very quickly. So what was that sort of time like for you going from not really being a professional dancer to suddenly touring and being kind of part of a phenomenon?
It was it was pretty crazy. It was unexpected,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like I was just sort of flying by the seat of my pants. Just, okay, this is happening now. Okay, this is happening now. I was really fortunate because I had a job that was very kind of flexible, that I could accommodate this like extra addition to my life that really started to take up a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I, honestly, sometimes I look back and I think, I don't know, how did that happen? I can't even, it feels like a dream. It was very fast for a number of years. It just like a fast moving train that I honestly did feel like often I was running to just keep up with it, you know? So,
Yeah.
but it was great, and I'm very happy to have been on a part, like had this in my life. It's just been an incredible journey. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, it just seems like it must have been a wild experience. Like those kind of things are always like touring, all this is like super intense. All the places that you went, it must, like I can imagine that it would feel surreal to some degree.
Yeah, and I've always loved to travel. You know, I toured a little bit with my Ukrainian dance groups.
Okay.
We went to Ukraine and we went to, well, we didn't go far. We went to Ukraine and we went to Prince Edward Island and we went to New York a whole bunch of times. Um, but I was kind of already used to that group travel. So for me, it wasn't, you know, it was kind of funny actually coming from the experience of having traveled with a dance group of, you know,
Mhm.
30 people, often on a big coach bus,
Mhm.
to going with a band and seeing how, you know, here's a bunch of musicians that have come together and haven't had this experience, and how they react to different things, and seeing, and me having already been through it like a bunch of times. It was funny. It's very interesting, but I'm glad I did have that. I did have the traveling experience in my belt, because touring is hard. It's so
Mhm.
exhausting. You don't have any time to, it's hard to sleep well, and even when you have any time off, you're usually in a vehicle.
Yeah.
So that's really hard on your body. So even if you're sleeping in the car, which I absolutely can't,
Me neither.
um, you just don't get any rest. You're tired all the time, and then you get cranky, and then you become like brothers and sisters, and so you
But
have
isn't
that
it,
dynamic.
I
And
feel like touring is like extremes. Like because the performance aspect is so rich and like so rewarding and also so intense. And often you're just like busting to just get there and you go on stage and then you're also living. Like I don't really think there's anything else like it because you're also living 24 hours a day with the same people who are like not, it's not your partner, like it's not your like necessarily your best friends, although it might be, you know, and they, but it really ends up being like family, but family in a way that like no family would ever interact. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's
So
true.
for me, I
It's
don't know. At
true.
the end, it's like I would like kind of like we would hate each other to some degree, but also like the bond I developed with those people is like stronger than the bond that I have with almost anyone else. And like the experiences that we had together are like deeper in a lot of ways than other experiences, good or bad.
Yeah, it's true, because you're going through this, you're all experiencing it together, but at the same time, everybody has their own individual reaction to it. So sometimes you have people that can bond, and sometimes you just clash with some people, and sometimes it's the same people every time, and sometimes it's different every tour who you're like getting along with. But yeah, it's crazy because it's, you know, we had one tour where majority of it was me making, well, for me, from my experience, was getting dressed and doing my makeup and hair in the van af after a 10-hour, like during or the end, towards the end of a 10-hour drive, to be able to jump out of that van and get on stage to do a quick line check and then do a show
Yeah.
where I had to dance. It was there were lots of days where I was just crying because I was
Mhm.
just really tired, and it you just don't have that, you don't have that comfort of your home to like relax and like unwind and feel and ground yourself, because you're just
Yeah.
it's constant craziness. It's pretty wild.
Now that it's been COVID for so long, like, do you miss it at all, or have you been grateful for this little? this like 2 year break?
Well, at the beginning, I was really grateful for it because I think I'd been burnt out for a bunch of years.
For sure.
And I thought, oh, I'm kind of happy that I can just do nothing. And especially at the beginning, I couldn't even work.
Mhm.
Because I do work as well as balance the music stuff. Um, and so I was happy at the beginning, but then it started to sort of sink in that, well, what's actually happening? Like what's going on? Where is this going? And then the anxiety starts to kick in, and then I definitely miss performing. Had a couple of opportunities in this last year for shows with audiences. One of them being the block performance, which was, oh my God, filled my heart up so much to have that. And it was all outside, so everything was fine. It was the middle of the summer.
Was this in the
But to be
exciting drum on the in the lot there?
Yeah, in the parking lot, yeah.
So
And
cool.
felt like the old days, and that felt really good. Um, but the stuff that we do online, those those performances are just weird. You really feel like you're floating in space in this weird atmosphere where you're like, what is going on? Where you finish a song and it's quiet.
Yeah, those people are out there, but like can't feel them.
Yeah, that's such a huge part of it, right? Like, like when you're dancing or you're singing and you're performing, there's an energy exchange between you and the audience. And whether they're seated or standing or whatever, there's an exchange. Like even if it's just like a 1 second of eye contact with someone and an expression on their face, or you make these connections that boost these it shoots energy up into you, into your spirit, or how, I don't know, however you want to describe it, that propels you while you're performing. And when you don't have that audience and you don't have that, you're having to like source that yourself, however you do that. And sometimes you don't feel inspired and you feel kind of lost. It
Yeah.
feels like you're forcing it, it's hard.
Well, hopefully, the end is in sight, and anything online we'll be doing will be hybrid with some people sitting in the audience. This is our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, talking about Lemon Bucket, I think was that the time? Was it around that time, or was it with that group that you also started singing as a performer? Because I know now that's a big part of what you do. So was that
Yeah.
like was that new for you then, or was that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I never thought that I was a singer. I had decided, I guess as a child, it's really funny. I have this one vivid memory. Um, my parents sent me to Sunday school for a little bit at our church, our Ukrainian church, because we have a very like fun-loving priest who also plays the guitar and sings. He likes to sing. He's really fun to be around. So he was running this Sunday school, and we would go, and there was of course a portion where we would sing. And I always really liked singing, and I remember even like in elementary school learning how to sing, alto or soprano, and I really loved the alto parts because I liked the harmony. I like to harmonize. Um, but when I joined the Sunday school, I remember he would like pick people to solo or to sing the part, and he never picked me. And I thought, oh, okay, well, it's probably because, I'm just not a singer, and that's fine.
You're
And I
like
remember even once,
received.
what?
You're like message received.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, I'm not a singer. I'm a dancer. I'm not a singer. Okay, fine, whatever. But then anyway, fast forward to Lemon Bucket, and we had a singer, Anastasia Baczynski, an amazing singer, she's an amazing performer. She was with us for the first couple of years, but then her life circumstances changed, and she left the group. And so we were performing without, we just had Marchik singing the songs. And we were in Montreal one day, and we performed at a venue, and then we used to do a lot of like after party kind of things. Like we would parade out of the bar and into the park and then continue to play a little bit more. Um, and we were performing, we were playing, I think, like Nishka Banya or something, and I started to harmonize with Mark just for fun. And afterwards he's like, you should you should now sing all the harmonies for all of our songs. Because you can hold a tune. That's what he said. Or you can hold a tune. It's
It's
like,
like now you
okay.
do that. Okay.
He's like, okay, so get up there. Now you're doing it. And I remember it was so hard at first because I would choke. I would literally choke on stage. I'd start singing, and then suddenly it was like my voice just dried out, and
Oh
I'd
my
have
God.
to cough. And I'd pull away, and he'd look at me with this like weird look. He'd be like, "What's happening?" I don't know what he was thinking, but um, for a very long time, I just because it's a totally different thing, like
Really, yeah.
how you use with your breath, all this kind. I didn't know any of that stuff. So, and then we had a show, we were in touring in Europe, we were in Berlin, and that's one of those times that stands out in my head because people were smoking in the bar. And so here you are in full of cigarette smoke. And I just started coughing. I couldn't sing. Thank God I wasn't singing any of the leads. It just the harmony would just drop out. But I don't know. That's how I started. And then I started to sing with Kosa Collective, which was the Ukrainian group
Mhm.
that started folkloric group that branched out towards different cultures as well. I started singing with them, and then teachers would come in and I would train, with them. And then when Marichka Marchik came to Toronto, I would take her workshops as well. And she's taught me a lot about the traditional style, which I'm really, really thankful for, and how to access that voice. And um, just different teachers throughout the years that have given me um, some tips. And I'm still learning. There's still a
I know,
lot.
singing is such a funny thing because it's like, oh, something that we all just do. And so I could see somebody being like, now you just sing. But it is also like this instrument and like you're singing this like traditional, like particular style of singing, and there's all these things that go along with it. But it's like, no, now you do that.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. And I
Really.
still think that half the time, especially if I have to lead something or sing by myself. I can dance anywhere at any time on a stage and I don't really care. It's fine. I'm used to it. I'm used to it. I might not be feeling good that day, whatever. It's not really like a huge deal, but to sing is a totally different beast. It's terrifying.
But now you're also doing it with the group Bliss, this
Mhm.
wonderful all-woman group. Can you tell us a little bit about the formation of that group and what exactly it is that you do?
Yeah, so Blisk is an all-female collective, and we sing polyphonic songs from all over Eastern Europe, the Balkans, Bulgaria, and we started out as a quintet, and we are now a trio. And it's basically percussion. We have accordion, and we have wind instruments, and I also play the jaw harp. And yeah, it's a totally different thing. It's a bit more mellow than what I'd been doing with Lemon Bucket because obviously there's no brass section. Um, but it's really fun. I really love it. It was a huge adjustment to working with only women, which was great. Really,
Tell
really
me about
great.
that.
But
What were
well, I
some of
mean,
the
I've been in
challenges or what were some of the things that were easier?
communication is easier. There's a lot more communicating. Like people talk about um, like I find that women just are more open up more. They're not closed.
Mhm.
So talking about feelings is easier, harder too because having to deal with everybody's emotions all the time is hard, but you have to do that anyway in like an arts group where we're a bunch of artists and we're all emotional, and that's like part of why we're so artistic.
Totally.
So that's kind of a bit like bigger in the with Blisk. I mean, I was with Lemon Bucket, there was a point where I was the only female on one tour. That was
Yeah,
really hard. Hard not to have
I thought
another
about that
woman
when I
like,
saw the band, sometimes the band and just you. I was like, wow, it's a lot of male energy and just you holding
yeah.
it down.
It's pretty, I mean, not that they anybody did anything wrong or anything like that. It's just a different dynamic. Like we're different creatures, I guess, like that was, yeah. You'd think like, I'm in Eastern Europe with 11 men. I'm good, I'm safe, but I found more more than anything I had to like make sure they didn't forget me behind.
Oh my God.
Not that they didn't, not that they, again, not that they ignored me, not that they didn't want me there. It's just a different way of like getting existing. I don't even know how to explain it. And also I just always felt like I had to be louder in the group to be heard. Just again, it's a dynamic thing. So, but I don't really,
And
I
what
don't
about
know.
with Bliss? Are there any challenges with Bliss when it's all women? I find that there's like it's like there's just dynamics are different and there's like pros and cons between. But I feel like so often as a dancer, you are in like there are in groups with lots of men, and it's kind of fun to be just with women for a bit. I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, like both sides have their pros and cons. So,
Mhm.
it's not one's not better than the other. But there is definitely more of a I feel more comfortable crying with women than I feel like when I'm with a bunch of men because honestly, it just makes me feel like when I would cry with surrounded by men, they would become uncomfortable
Yeah.
and turn away. So, I felt like a burden. But like what are you gonna do, right? With women, it's like, oh, are you okay? You start to show a little bit of emotion, and they're, are you okay? Someone asks you, are you okay? It's really nice. Whoops, just kicked the thing.
I mean, yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have all of these different facets of your artistic and your performance, your life as a performer, but then you also have this whole other side to you that is, very, very fascinating, which is that like throughout all of this, you've also you've pursued and gotten 2 degrees, one in the arts and science with a specialization in architecture, one in industrial design from OCAD, and you're working as a multidisciplinary designer, interior design and set design for film. So that's incredible. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know that about you. How have you been able to balance these 2 sides of your life? Like, they both seem like very all-encompassing.
Well, so that's where, the job that I was telling you about came in. Like I was when I so I never thought I was going to be a performer as a, career. So I was on another path. So
Mhm.
I did these degrees. I studied architecture and then I worked for a year and realized I don't want to do that. That's not, I can't do this I can't do this. It was making me miserable. But I did like to design. I really did. So I went back to school for industrial design, thinking, furniture design. That's something that's more hands-on. I needed something that I could actually see the end result of my creativity.
Mhm.
Um, and while I was at OCAD, I was still working part-time for the design firm that I had been working for. I just dropped down to part-time. Um, but while I was in school, that company went spontaneously bankrupt, voluntarily bankrupt. And one of the women that worked there went off on her own and called me and said, I need somebody part-time. Can you work for me? And I thought, this is perfect. I'm in school. I still need to work. So I started working with her, and now it's been 16 years. I just never stopped.
That's incredible.
And it's always been me and her. And she would only take on a certain amount of work because it was just her with me as her like hands, and I did all the CAD, I did all the construction drawings for her and the presentation boards and stuff. So I was able to balance touring and the performance life with my work life. We would just work it out. We would make it work. In terms of the set, I haven't worked in film in a while because I realized very early on that I didn't have time. I had to choose between a career in film or between a career in film and everything else. So
Right. You couldn't do
couldn't
that.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do the design job. There's no way I could be in a band and tour if I worked in film because it's 12-hour days,
Yeah.
5 days a week when you do the
And it's like a
project. So you're,
project and that's it.
yeah, and that's it. So I stepped away from that a little bit and I started to do more contract work in film where if they needed an extra hand in the art department, they would call me for like 3 weeks and I would go in for work for 3 weeks. Or if an art director or production designer had their own film, like I worked with someone, he did a commercial and then
I just
his
gotta
own little
interrupt
film.
you to say, has been commenting here, and I haven't been reading them out because I'm very bad at following the comments at the same time. She's been saying so many awesome things about you, and she says, "Got to run," but yay, women taking over the industry. And then she says, "Does so much, but so humble." That's you.
Yeah, but
Anyway, you. Sorry.
so I just anyway that sort of petered off a little bit, which is fine because I just got too busy even for that. But I did. I have to say it was fun. I worked my first two jobs in film were working on Saw movies.
Yes, my friend was in one of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess they just hire it there. You know what I mean? She's in Toronto, and it was here. She was in Saw 2, I think.
Oh, okay. I was in 5 and 6.
Or yeah. Yeah, but that must have been real, like as a set designer, that must have been fun because those movies are bonkers.
Yeah, it was great because I already had the experience, like the architecture design background. Although I was an apprentice, that was my official position in the on the show, art department apprentice. They did give me quite a bit of design work. So they let me,
Mm.
draw up the traps and some of the like the traps that people would get killed in, and also the rooms, the different rooms and sets. It was pretty wild. It was really cool to see the whole process of how they do that and the prosthetics and to be just to be around it. But
Yeah,
also thinking, God, does the world need this kind of stuff? Like, do we really need these horror movies? It's horrible.
funny story about the Saw movies and tying it back to tour. The percussionist in my band literally sat in the back seat of the van for like a long time and on his iPad just watched all the Saw movies. I was
Oh
like,
gosh.
I was like, how does this really spend your days? Like we're driving through like Albert, like the most beautiful, like the Rockies. He's watching Saw.
That's pretty intense. I had to watch 1 through 4 in the first few days of my work on 5, just so that because I was a person that they would come to and say, "Can you grab some screenshots of this scene?"
Yeah.
So I had to know where it was in the movies. I had to know, like, I had to, be able to quickly get into the film and take screenshots. I was dreaming about that stuff for a week, honestly, after watching all of them.
Do you find that there's any like crossover between like the skill set that you have in these two different parts of your life, or is anything like useful between
Yeah, for sure.
performing and design?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if I ever had to do any kind of stage set design stuff, I could do that. I have the skills to draw it up.
Hmm.
So my awareness of spaces as a dancer and as a designer is pretty strong. Um, I don't know how else they would be.
Do you feel like those
Probably.
two parts of your life are very separate? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you have like a community from one or a community from the other? And is one like more dominant?
You mean like from performing and then the design side?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely my performing life is much stronger. Because my design life is much smaller. I mean, because it's just me and my boss working
Hmm.
together, that's kind of my community there
Hmm.
mostly. I don't keep in touch much with my friends from school. A little
Your
bit. I have a
work.
couple. I have a
Hmm.
couple. Really, I kept most in touch with a group of friends from elementary school.
That's awesome.
Those, yeah, like that. So I don't know. I guess I do. My life is a bit partitioned, but um, yeah, I guess they don't really mix that
It's
much.
yeah, it's just like I'm just asking because sometimes I feel that way. That I'm like journalism is like a sort of different kind of like crew, and then
Yes.
like all the crazy flamencos. So it's like a funny like dichotomy to have. Can you
They're
maybe tell me?
definitely,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they're definitely different types of people. Like the design industry and the music industry are very different, like in terms of how people interact
Hmm.
and like just
Totally.
yeah, it's different. Yeah.
And it's just interesting to negotiate. Like I see like different parts of myself when I'm having to like interview like this person and then go and like jam with like like it's just like you're in two different parts of society or like worlds. It can be like super
Mhm.
interesting to have a foot in two different things like that. But tell me, what do you have coming up? Is there anything that we can tell people about? I know it's like a weird time with the hopefully tailing off of Omicron and stuff, but are you planning anything like in the spring and summer, or can people like watch for anything?
Well, tonight I have a performance with Blisk at Drum Taberna, which is like
Amazing.
one of the best bar in Toronto for live music. They have live music every night. So we have two sets from 6 to 8, basically. We'll be performing from 6 to 8 tonight at Drum Taberna.
Oh
And
wow.
I've also been partnering because I do so I guess this is where the design where my the two worlds meet is that ooh, oh sorry, my light almost fell. Um, is the professional side comes out in my, in grant writing and managing Bliss. I manage the band in terms of just organizing and stuff. And also, I've been working, actually partnering with a Toronto-based artist named Nikki Lawrence on her project called Ugly Black Woman. So we are producing her show, which is going to be taking place at Paradise Theater, March 18th and 19th. So I would
Beautiful.
really, really highly recommend that. It's a spectacular show about Black women in history, as well as her own personal experiences. And she just sings all of her original material, and it's honestly one of the most captivating shows I've ever seen.
We
So
had
I
her
would highly
sing
recommend that.
that one song
Yeah.
in one of Fab Collab's shows, Women in Song, Strange Darlings at the Aga Khan last October. And she's incredible. Like such a
Yeah.
powerful voice, but just also such a powerful performer. And like the music that she writes is just like she's really speaking to her experience. And it's so it would be
Yeah.
incredible to see a whole conceptual show that she's put together. And at the Paradise is I've never been there, but I really want to check out that venue. I've heard it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous venue, really, really nice. Yeah, it's going to be a great show, and it's really important. And you'll learn a lot of Black Canadian history that I'm sure almost nobody knows anything about Black women in Canadian history that have done some pretty remarkable things, but also had some pretty harrowing experiences. So it's one not to miss.
It's March 18th and 19th at the Paradise. Is
At the
there like a
Paradise.
website or anything that people can look at?
Yeah,
Or no?
we're launching the website uglyblackwoman.ca. I forget .com or .ca, February 1st. So just watch out for that. Or just go. I'll be sharing it on my social media, so you'll see it.
What's your social media handle? I guess it's this.
It's at at Stephania.a.a.
I'm gonna write it in here. Um, this is hard for me. There we go. Got it. I'm not an amazing social media multitasker.
No, me neither.
So that's like probably a good place to just follow and see what you've got coming up and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then of course there's some planned touring with Lemon Bucket in the summer, which we'll see. Hopefully,
I
stay
say yeah.
tuned.
I'm gonna knock on wood and say I think it's for like the 100th time. I'm gonna be like, we're on the tail end of this. It's on its way out. Swear to
I
you.
know, I know.
Spring has been good.
It's
Spring,
like
summer.
Groundhog Day, like 2 years of Groundhog Day, but
I
the
know.
weather changing. It's not snow on the ground all year.
Thank goodness. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but is there any chance, and you just talked about being stressed out about singing by yourself, but is there any chance you could sing just a little tiny thing for us? Because we love it and we love to have it for our reels and just like, yeah, to have all these different voices.
Yeah. Okay, let me think. What kind of song to sing?
It can just be a little
Um,
extra. It's just always nice to hear like a little something of what we've been talking about.
yeah, because most of the stuff that I sing requires other people to sing with me because
That's
they're,
right.
but okay. This is one. It's a Ukrainian song that actually it was sung by a performer with a choir called Voling that are based out of Ukraine. And this one's a solo one though. So this one kind of made me fall in love with the more, village style singing.
Okay.
Мала пташина невеличенька, на роки тонці скаче. Дурна дівчина, нерозумна я, по козаченьку плаче. Ти сів поїхав, мене покинув. А як бідна плачу, плакала очі темної ночі, що світого не бачу. Щоби так тобі, як тепер мені, та біда докучила, то б ти приїхав, мене одвідав. Щоби я і не тужила, то б ти приїхав, мене одвідав, щоби я і не тужив.
So beautiful. Man, that's your voice is incredible, and that style of singing is like so. I don't know if it's because I have a tiny bit of Ukrainian in me, or if it's just amazing. But it's so
Thank you.
moving to me. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. I really, really appreciate it. We all do. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, it was about time. I was like, we got to talk to this woman. She has some stories to tell. So thank you so much for sharing stories about your life and all the crazy journeys you've had in the arts. And I'm sure you'll be involved in many other things that we're up to. So everybody, if you can, check out, we'll watch for Stephania at different events in Toronto and on tour this summer. And check out Nikki Lawrence, March 18th and 19th at the Paradise Ugly Black Woman .commer.ca. Coming soon. Thank you so much. So wonderful to speak with you, and enjoy the rest of this snowy day.
Thank you, you too. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.